Thanks. Good morning, John.
Good morning, RL, and thank you. Good morning again, everyone. Again, happy spring. Spring is my favorite season here in the Wood River Valley. And it's not the favorite season for many people who live here. In fact, I arrived in spring, actually almost like this week, 19 years ago, and people kept apologizing for how ugly the scenery was. Because it wasn't full-fledged winter, skiing happened, and the green of summer and how we hike and bike hadn't happened. And so many people at that time were like, "You sure you like it?" I said, "My God, this is amazing." I mean, it just really, I found it kind of humorous that people were apologizing for the view not being what they thought it should be. But here's the reason why I love spring here. That as much as I love summer, and I really love summer, there's so much to do here, and again, you can do amazing things outside. But what I like about spring is that the story of summer hasn't been written yet. That we get to, I guess, imagine, vision, plan what that can be. And I just like that really special, precious kind of feeling that we are just, conspiring for great things to happen. And they haven't yet. So I like that creativity, that inner creativity within ourselves that, at least for me, this sense that anything is possible as we come up. And certainly I think this summer that is true in maybe a different way. We kind of don't know where our path is going. Some things are opening up, but we don't know what that will mean. So we can't just take for granted as years pass that, these are the things that usually happen in summer. Yeah, those things will happen, but they'll happen differently. And we can actually mindfully look at what we are going to do and who we feel comfortable now doing them with. So again, this year more than ever, the story of summer hasn't been written yet, and we get to create that. Part of that creation, which I love, the whole idea of it is right now as we lead up to Easter, I've talked quite a bit in the past few weeks about Lent, which is a sacred practice within Christianity, and how I look at it is this idea and invitation to release attachment to things that no longer serve you. And it's interesting when we look at that, how many things that we hold on to that we really don't need anymore. That mental things, inner emotional things, physical things. Here's been my Lenten practice I want to share with you all. If you were to go into my office, you will see on the top of the bookshelves there are several stacks of books. My practice has been every day I have to find a book on my shelf that I no longer need that I can eventually give to someone or donate. So I have several stacks of books I no longer need that I'm willing to let go. And it's a symbolic thing of releasing attachment to things that you don't no longer need. And I think part of this Lent that for me is like the scales react a little bit differently as we go to the equinox, possibly, at least for me, before the equinox when days were more darker than light. That's, for me, a tendency to think more of what I want to release. And now that the balance has gone into the sun or light, to start to think, well, what do I want to replace it with? What do I want to create in my life? Or just recognize something amazing in my life that I haven't given myself time to recognize. And to use even the Easter moment as stepping forth into something new, a newer attitude, looking at something a little bit differently, and to ask myself and I invite you to ask yourself, what is this all about? What we're doing right now? What is it at the core of motivation in life, regardless of what your activity is? And what I personally look at two things that sound similar, but they're quite different. I look at what is, in a sense, the vision of my life, and what is the visualization of my life? What is the vision? What is the visualization? So a vision, this word, it's a kind of an intimidating word. I remember in the school of ministry, the teachers used to say, what is the vision of your ministry? And it's like, I don't know, just something intuitively within me said I had to go to school. Nothing big other than I was getting that spiritual kick in the behind. But for me, a vision, of course, when we talk about vision, we often will talk about very detailed plans that we have. or things that we'd like to create. But for me, that's not what vision is. That's the visualization. That's what it looks like. For me, a vision is something that, as visualizations constantly are changing, that a core seat idea of a vision or idea that you base on your life, in a sense, doesn't change. Doesn't mean that it can't expand or shift, or just even looking at our vision here, we are a spiritual center that empowers personal growth. That can show up in any number of visualizations. But there is a core idea or vision that, as we do things here, I have to ask ourselves, how does that little seed idea fit in there? So as we are on the other side of the equinox, that's a good question for us to ask ourselves. What is a core idea that I have based my life on, even if I'm not aware of it? And it's interesting how we have these themes that maybe we haven't given it much thought or contemplation time. So here's mine. So just to give you an idea of how this works out. So when I was about 15, I was given an unintentional compliment by a very good friend of mine in high school. So I had this very good friend, and she and I were, like, as they say, thick as thieves, constantly together. I usually would go over her house afterwards and, talk about the day. And so here's a good visualization for you. So my friend, she had very long hair, and she thought it was a little bit too frizzy. So usually at least once a week, we'd go into her room, and she had a collection of orange juice cans. And so she would, roll her hair up in the orange juice cans, and then have that big, canopy dryer thing. And then we would try to talk for the rest of the afternoon with the big canopy dryer thing about what happened at school that day. But I remember one time, and I remember this distinctly, that she had the tent on her head, and she was talking about someone at school. Of course, as teenagers, you like to talk about your other students a little bit. And she said, "Gosh, John, you just always ruin this." I said, "What do you mean I just ruin this?" She says, "Well, whenever I want to talk about someone, meaning gossip, you always have something nice to say about them. Why is that?" And it wasn't intentional, but it's funny how that stuck with me, of all the millions of conversations that we had with her and the big tent on her head, that it was a theme of my life. And it actually speaks to a core, truth or concept that we teach in Science of Mind, which is this, that regardless of the visualization of your life, in other words, regardless of how things are happening, which we can judge as good, bad, or indifferent depending on where we are in life, that there is a part of us within ourselves that is perfect, whole, and complete at all times, and that doesn't change. It doesn't mean that your life can't still be in chaos at times. And here's a little secret I'm going to tell you about how we hold you in prayer here at Light of the Mountains. So we have a ministry of prayer. We have prayer practitioners like Marcia who go over our prayer list throughout the week. And you can give us a prayer request through our website. There's, I think, a little button somewhere that says give a prayer request. And so when you submit a prayer request, and let's say it's something about your health or a job, or you're concerned about yourself or a family member, and you would like to have that change, we don't pray for the change. We pray and affirm that there is perfection and wholeness and completeness in you and your situation. So we don't see something as this is bad, now we have to pray it to being good. We say that, oh, there is always something good there, and let us affirm that and know that that will make itself more apparent in your situation that you're having trouble getting through right now. So does that make sense? So in a sense, that is a vision idea that we have, much like my own personal one, that within all situations is perfection, wholeness, and a completion. And as I have done my prayer work through this amazing, crazy, exasperating year, what I have had to know, and as our practitioners in prayer have to know, that even though it looks really not great at different points, that there is a wholeness and completion in it. And I know it can seem a little, opposite of what you should be doing, but that's where we go. So when I look at that core idea for me, or my vision, as I look back, I can see how, whether I was conscious of it or not, how I expressed that in any job that I had, in any activity that I had. And in fact, I can remember some employments that I had that, either a salesperson or cutting someone's hair or some of the other crazy things that I did, that sometimes a client would come to me and I could tell, oh, we're not here for, to sell them something or to cut their hair. They came intuitively to have affirmed for them that they're okay, that there is a perfection within them regardless. And what was interesting about that, there was almost like an energy shift within me when it was like, oh, they're not here for what they think they're here for. They're here to have something affirmed for them. And not that I would say, oh, you know that you're perfect, whole, and complete anyway, but just in my knowingness with them, it seemed like sometimes that's why someone was there. So to ask yourself, and this is a deep question, what is at least one core idea? And, don't think you have to come up with it immediately. Do some contemplation about that. Review your life. What idea, what positive idea have you brought to the table with you at all times, even if you're not completely aware of it? And as you're trying to figure this out, you're welcome to borrow mine, because I think it's a good one. But just what has repeated? And to know that vision is always there, and the visualizations, how it plays out, will always show up, in a sense, in time and on time. Came across a great quote from an Old Testament book. I hope I say this correctly. Habakkuk. It is a prophet from the Bible, or Old Testament, considered a lesser prophet, not that there's good and bad ones, but not like a Moses level. And I like this. He said, write down this vision and clearly inscribe it on tablets, so that whomever reads it may understand it clearly. For the vision awaits an appointed time, and it will be fulfilled at the end. It does not lie. And if it should delay, do not be impatient, because it will surely come. It will not delay. This is what I like about this. For one thing, though, your vision is never delayed, the core idea. But I think, in a sense, this shows up as the visualizations. That when we are in a life transition, especially, that we get so impatient for something to show up. And I certainly have, in my own time, felt like I was in a period of nothing was happening. Nothing was developing as I had hoped. But things were actually happening behind the scenes and happening within me. And I like this. It says, write it down, because it's going to come. It's going to happen. It may not happen how you want it or when you want it, and it may not be at your front door tomorrow when you open the door, but it is in process right now. So it says write it down so you'll recognize it when it comes. So again, focus on what is your core idea, and then start to open up the creative process of, and what is the next way that this is going to be visualized? What's the next step? And I think that's what should be exciting for us as individuals and as a nation, as a world right now, because there is a sense that we are bringing on a different and revised visualization of who we are and what we do. At this point with this last year, do any of you think that you're going to turn the clock back and then say back to last January and do exactly what you did and the way that you did it, having exactly the same opinions that you had at that time? No, your life has all of our lives has evolved. So I think what we can do right now is start to, first of all, try to figure out what your own personal core idea or vision is, and invite the next level of visualization for yourself. And we all have one. So you may be much younger in life and you're thinking of, career changes or moving to other cities or exciting things like that. But even if you are at the other end of life, retired years ago, there is a next visualization. Like I said, that if you wonder, do you still have something to learn and to give in this life or to grow in this life? The question is the answer is pretty simple. If you are breathing, the answer is yes. You still have more visualizations in your life ahead for you. So this is a question for all of us, even though some people it may seem like bigger things. But they can also be very subtle things. So now that we've passed the vernal equinox, and we're inviting this in to just start the what-ifs. You know, it's funny, often as Westerners, we want instant answers. I notice that when we do vision meditations here, that it's really meant to just start the juices flowing. But there's this thing with us that we want to get an answer right away. We want to say, this is what we need to do right now. We need to leave here with a 10-point plan of our next visualization. And maybe sometimes we do. But this type of process is really to kind of like, let's get the juices flowing. What even, have I found it intimidating a little bit in the past that I'm willing to say, no, I'll try it out a little bit. So one of my colleagues wrote an interesting article that I'm going to take a couple things from it, that he talked about this process, and he says it's a process to embrace, embody, and become. And I like this: embrace, embody, and become. So as we start to entertain possibilities, as he said in his little article, that we are in the embrace stage, that we are like, let's call it dating new possibilities. We're not marrying possibilities yet. We're just dating them. We're putting our profile out on Match.com or something in ideas. We're just going to kind of put our toe in the water a little bit. We're starting to just think that, what if? And I remember before, a couple months before I came here and went through the process of applying for this position, that I knew that it was time to embrace a position, something similar to here. And our home office in Golden, Colorado, they have a special little department for, the want ads for ministers, and there was 15 possibilities. And I remember they sent them all these PDFs to me, and I printed them all out, and I put them on this desk, and I was just like, wow, look at all these possibilities. And well, that sounds like an interesting place to be, and this sounds really amazing, and boy, I never thought of myself living in that city. And it was just like this amazing mind explosion of what I could possibly do. And of course, one of those was Light on the Mountains. And I have to say that even that day, there was something compelling about that one print-off that I just kept going back to. So when you start to get an idea that, oh, I've been dating all these ideas, but this one direction seems to be compelling of all these ideas, you're, as my friend said, you're in the embody stage. You're starting to imagine yourself not just in consideration of something, but what if this one thing that seems so compelling to me right now, what if that is the thing? That whole saying of act as if. And I remember as I had set up an appointment time to come out here to Sun Valley and meet you all many years ago, it was just like, wow, this could be the thing. And it was beyond just dating the idea. It was just like, I actually have a plane ticket. This could be a thing. And you take that next step of, and not to say that that's has to be the thing, but it's like, hey, this is a little bit more real. It's beyond just there's infinite possibilities. It's just like, imagine that you've got, a little chute and you're kind of narrowing down a little bit, and you're kind of in that narrow where there might be a couple other things you're still thinking about, but it's just like, wow, I'm really starting to have this sense that this could be the thing. And then as you make your decisions, you get to, from embody, which it could be a part of me, to become where, this is the thing. And I remember that there was that moment for me when I had come here and spent some time with you all that, oh no, this is really it. So you come from it possibly in a part of you to, in a sense, it is you, or at the moment. You're becoming it. You're allowing it. This is, in a sense, it's this inner commitment that this is really it. I mean, there still may be some doubts, or still may be some human things like, how am I going to pull this off? But it's like, no, this is really it. But of course, here's the thing that we all have to deal with. Again, vision or core idea is somewhat never changing. Visualization is always changing. So sometimes just when we think we have the perfect becoming, the perfect visualization in life, it's like a house of cards. Well, no, it's time for it to change again. And you have to go through the process again. But that's also the exciting thing about it. Just want to close with something today from Reverend Edward Fiyun, who is our larger community spiritual leader for Center Spiritual Living. He's a senior minister at the Center Spiritual Living in Northern California. And he's been posting a little, for his Lenten practice, a little affirmation every day. And I've been posting or sharing these on our Facebook page for Light of the Mountains. And it says, for day 24 of Lent, it's titled Newness. Today I give up the idea that I can repeat anything. Creative mind within me reveals itself as newness in my thoughts, words, and creativity. This creativity flows out from me and is a blessing to all who come into contact with it. So we're in a creative mode right now. It will look nothing like anything we've done before. It may be, disguised a little bit to look similar, but it's not the same. Don't let that fact be intimidating and frightening. Allow it to be what it's meant to be. It's exciting as we step forth right now. So let's celebrate newness and our creativity. And let's take this within prayer for a moment. First, I give thanks for this amazing day. I give thanks for spring. I give thanks for the many birds that have returned, that we hear the song in the air that have been missing for so long. I give thanks for the possibility that is apparent right now. Our lives this summer have yet to be created, and we can create those now. And so in this Thanksgiving, I recognize that this creative presence, this power of the divine is right here, right now, within all of us. And within that is the knowledge that we are each perfect, whole, and complete, regardless of what's going on in our outside world. We come in contact with that. We allow ourselves to embrace that fact and know that regardless of our challenges, there is that perfection to call on in all instances. So again, I express my thanks, and in this thanks, I simply release it. I let it go. I release my attachment to how that perfection shows up in my life. I just let it be. And as I release it into the power of mind, into the heart of mind and spirit, I know and allow amazing things to happen. And so it is.